I feel like I'm floating through.
I started having this kind of feelings long time ago. I guess maybe since when I was 10. But I couldn't understand what really was actually going on with me. But I would just sort of brush it off and I said, it's just something else and something. When I see someone cute, I was, I just keep it to myself. I said, that person's cool or that's cute. I just don't want to disclose it out.
When I grew up, there was no gay people in that little village, but I knew there should have been. But that was the idea that was given. So even when I grew up, knowing that I loved a bit differently, I didn't know what it meant. I was 13 years old. I fell in love with a girl. I thought, but then you must be a boy, Deline, because there was no gay role models. I didn't have a lesbian grandmother. So in a way, I had to make sense of this.
I was always great in school because I was encouraged by my parents. I excelled, and I guess that kind of compensated for my other inadequacies in inverted commas.
I couldn't involve myself most with people who are gay because I wasn't even knowing that I was gay. So I would just see them, they pass. I was like, oh my word, whoa. Sometimes I feel like to say hi to them, but I just look behind at who's watching, who's going to say, oh, he is.
Initially, I was in denial. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't think of myself as a lesbian woman. I didn't know what it meant. I knew it was wrong and that I should fall in love with a boy, but I just didn't feel it.
I started my first job when I was 19. I was in college. I worked with an international company. I became like the face of the organization. So here I was, I knew without reasonable doubt that I was a lesbian. If I was a woman who loves women, on the other hand, I was existing in a society that found such things very unacceptable. So I had to strike a balance. So I used to live double lives. So by day, I'm this all made up, good for TV, making press statements. By night, I'm out. But I could never form actual relationships with people because I did not want that business to come into my professional life.
After I realized my sexuality, I did not tell my family. I was a bit scared because I still depended on them. I remember my grandpa, when we used to see like the famous Somizi on TV, he'd be like, please change the channel. I hate gays. I'll never have a gay guy here in my family. So I waited until he passed away, actually, which is sad. But yeah, I did. Then after that, I called a meeting at home. I told them about my sexuality. And they were very supportive, actually. They're like, we understand. We were just waiting for you to tell us.
We had this housemaid at that time who was literally my age as well. So it wasn't like he was older than I am or I was older than he is. But then every night we kiss and smooch each other and do all sorts of things, but we never had penetrative sex. But on 2 occasions, my cousin called us, and then she called my cousins, called her mom, and then next morning they invited my mom over, and they told her, but no one ever took the conversation serious because it just ended there. They were just talks, and they tried to separate the both of us so that it doesn't happen again, and they felt, the guy is more exposed than I am, so he's the one that is corrupting me.
I realized one day I fell in love with this girl and I thought, what's this? And because I worked in psychiatry, it was not easy for me because I had this burden of what's expected of me. So actually for that moment, I fell out of the closet and into room 1, bed 1 of the psychiatric unit. So for the first time, I felt how it felt to be on the other side of the bed. I was 22 years old, professional nurse working in a psychiatric unit of a military hospital, adding to that a bit of layers. And I was so shocked by what was happening to me that I was admitted in my own unit. And then I had to come out to my parents, and that was difficult. I came out, and from the day that I came out up till the moment that things became okay with my parents, took about 4 years. I think the first time my mother realized that it was not just a phase was when I was absolutely devastated when my first girlfriend broke up with me, you know. And I think there she saw it as real.
When I turned 23, I met somebody who really changed it for me. And I decided at that point that my life was, first of all, I lost my mom. And then I met somebody, and then I was like, you know what, life is too short. Let me just do what I have to do.
As for my grandmother, and she wanted like to know more about gays. I remember at a time she asked me, so tell me, what do you feel when you look at a guy? And I was like, Coco, the same way you feel when you look at grandpa.
I remember being taken to traditional healers so that I could be appeased. She thought maybe it was a spirit within me that I was acting like in a feminine way, while at least I was a guy and I liked doing things the other way around, doing the chores and singing and doing things in a very girlish way than the normally expected way. So because of that, I remember I was taken to this traditional healer and they thought it was going to heal me. And I was taken to this other one. They thought it was going to work for me, but unfortunately, it never worked.
Subconsciously, my mother knew. My dad, even the time he found out that when someone revealed to him that I was a woman who loves women, he sort of knew. And he reacted in a bit of negatively at the time, but then at the end of it all, the only conversation we've ever had is, are you still my dad? Yes. Do you still love me? Yes. And then we've moved on from that, and that's it.
The tendency is when we're still in a phase when we try to find ourselves, sometimes we say things in spaces that's not safe yet, and that might have repercussions. Sometimes when you find out something about yourself, you're so happy, you want to celebrate it, but the world is not really to celebrate it with you. And that's the sad part. Maybe in 100 years from now, but now it's not the time yet. So I think in a way, make sure that you're safe. As an activist, I don't tell everybody, come out wherever you are. Because I know, especially in South Africa, even though we have this wonderful democracy, it's still not safe for everybody to come out. You might get shut out of the house, you might get murdered, you might get raped. I'm very aware of that, and I acknowledge that. So it's not a once-off thing.
I feel like I'm forced to break the silence. Is that a crime? Is that a crime?